Hey, thanks for clicking and checking out another conversation with Real Life with Joey, where it's my goal to help you be a leader that people love to follow in life, but also in your organization. Which is convenient because I'm releasing a conversation I had with Bill Goldring, Buffalo Trace and Sazerac chairman, an icon in the city of New Orleans that really shared some success secrets that I think can apply to anybody, no matter if it's the genesis of your leadership journey or the exodus where you're retiring. My advice from Bill is don't retire, refire, and really settle in on listening to share success with others because you have something to offer, which is why my friend Phil Nico and I enjoy being around high capacity, high caliber leaders who are also humble. Don't miss this conversation. Take a minute, listen and watch and see the insights that we learned from this heart-to-heart conversation with an icon in business, not just in New Orleans, but in the United States. I hope to have you encourage other people to share this content and subscribe to Real Life with Joey, where it's my goal to help you be a leader that people love to follow.
Yeah. And so from that relationship, I had the opportunity to meet Bill and we formed a friendship. And hey, many people want something from you, but very few want something for you. And Bill's one of those that has really impacted my leadership journey. He's opened doors and I've learned a lot. I call them listening sessions. And here I have Phil Nico. He's one of the nation's most successful leadership consultants who has influenced people like David Green is a friend of yours. David Green, the CEO of Hobby Lobby, and Phil speaks around the U.S. and has a big platform, and I'm just honored. Phil, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Oh, it's an honor to be here and then sit in this boardroom. It's like being in the Cabildo. This is some of those beautiful paintings, Mr. Bill, that I've ever seen. And we took pictures of the painting where they were lowering the flag of France and raising the flag of America downstairs. And it's just a beautiful office. And Mr. Bill has been so gracious, his whole team. So it's an honor to be here, Joey, with you. And it's always good to be around leaders. You know, when leaders get better, everybody gets better. And so when you find somebody that's done it well for a long time, it's a blessing to be there with them. So thank you for having us, Joey, and setting us up.
Well, most people want to look brilliant, and I really appreciate having other people look brilliant. So, Bill, I wanted to talk to you to kick us off today. I know in your leadership qualities, you have 30 leadership qualities that will guarantee success. And the first one is treat all people alike, whether that person is superior or subordinate in life, whether the chairman of the board or the janitor. Bill, why did you write that? And
I had a godson, and he was graduating from college, and I tried to figure out what I wanted to tell him. So I started writing things down that I thought would be important for his life. So I got up to 30 and stopped because I couldn't think of another one. But I've given that chart to so many different people, from my kids, grandkids, and I think I condensed it all into 30 different qualities.
And they're filled with leadership insight. And I'm happy to share that with anyone who messages me, just to give it away. Phil, what do you think about that quality? Because that's not something you hear a lot with successful people. When you're interacting with head of entire organizations, is that something the ego gets in the way and you have to, how do you balance humility and confidence?
You know, it's interesting. I'll tell you a funny story about that. We had a friend of mine, and he was on vacation with his son, and they were walking down the street in Tennessee, and he sees this sign, and it says, leave your egos by the door. And his son goes, Dad, why do they want you to put your waffles by the door? He's talking about egg-on waffles. And so whenever we would see somebody come into a boardroom and they got the ego, we'd say, would you look at those waffles? And I don't know. Anyway, I think there's no real place for it. You know, why would you have to have that? Like Bill says in his principles, power is all, it's already, it's assumed. Why do you have to prove it to anybody? And so I think, and I love that, Billy, you say never abuse it. In fact, I think it's one of the things that has been an enemy of our community is abuse of power. And it's good to see a person of your stature that is saying, hey, Michael, don't abuse power. There's no need for it.
Yeah, I found that oftentimes like people are attracted to people who are successful and they always want something from you. So how do you create an environment where you're filling your cup as a leader and you're not pouring out so much that the stress and the giving is taken away from you being profitable, but also profitable in life. How do you advise people who are watching right now who are just driven to succeed, but they're balancing personal life? So any advice there with how you're...
I'm not sure I really understand the question.
I like it. So if I were to ask it more simply,
Go ahead.
how do you balance people always coming to you wanting something from you
Right.
versus you being able to give something to them, but also being healthy?
Well, I can tell you I've got a foundation, and I've learned to turn over so much to the head of our foundation, let them know. But I'm kind of a softy, and I listen to everybody that I have time to, and that's most people. But you've really giving away money and things to people is a tough thing. It's tougher than making money. Figuring where you're going to give it to and how it can affect the most people and do good for the community.
And neat point about that. I know Joey is talking about it could be related to money, but also could be related to time. Yeah. And what you've given us today is your time, which we're appreciative of. But there's a grid that we all have to form, and not everybody knows how to communicate it or articulate it. Some of it's in people's gut. But I think that when I see somebody, particularly with me, because I had a conversation this morning with a person out of Dallas about this, if I see that they are hungry, it aligns with something that I can give them. I mean, if I can't give them what they're looking for, then I don't see a reason to waste that time. Right. But if they're hungry and humble and they come with some questions and they're drawing, where I'm not having to push, they're just pulling from me, I'm thrilled to meet with a person like that, because the time will not seem like a big investment. It will come right naturally because they're ready, they're prepared, and they can do something with it. If I also had a guy out of Canada tell me, what we want to invest in is organizations that we know are going to be a good horse to bet on. In other words, he could sense that this person, if I invest in them, it'll have a multiplied impact. And so not everybody can articulate that. Nobody has a real grid. We'll try to put some bullets together for some people, but a lot of this is in people's gut, feeling. That's what I've seen in leaders. They just sense it, sniff it. I think in this case, you were great friends with Joey's father, and you see a man who's 40 with 6 kids who's just out there cranking, and you're like, the guy's hungry. I just want to meet with the guy. I mean, how could you not love Joey, And so we're so appreciative of the time that you're spending.
Yeah, being around humble people is a big factor in, I think, your success. Having been to Buffalo Trace in Frankfort, Kentucky, it is the gold standard. It is the gold standard, and you treated the people I invited as if they were like famous celebrities, and walking through that customer service experience really uplifted my vision. And it showed me that, hey, I may have grew up telling everybody I was Italian, which is true. I am Italian on my mom's side. But my father was a Scotch Irishman, and you bottle of Scotch after my dad's name, Glenn Quinton. So I've been lying to people telling them I'm Italian. But I am Italian. And so the friendship is awesome. But if you're watching this right now and you're wondering, like, why are we having this conversation? What's in it for you? I would say catching leadership principles more than being taught, because everyone pretends that they have the answers and they're the ego of the leaders, and everybody wants to be great. But what I found with one of your qualities, Bill, it says, provide for your family, set a good image, and have a healthy balance between work and family. Now, many people watching are struggling right now. The pain of having a healthy marriage, healthy life, healthy father, family success, life success, balancing that with work success. I wanted to ask, how have you been able to live this principle in a way that people who are humble and hungry, and maybe they're struggling right now to balance everything, how did you find the way to do it all?
You're saying, how do you teach values to your kids? Is that what the question is?
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance, yeah. You have to spend time with your family, and spending time with your kids is very tough, especially when you're growing a business. The best days that I can remember in spending time with my kids was I'd come home from work, I'd go for a 6-mile jog, we'd have a bite to eat, and I had a jacuzzi in the backyard, and I'd sit there with the kids in that jacuzzi when they were calm and weren't killing each other, and we'd talk about life. and explain the do's and don'ts of life. And that was pretty important, those moments.
I love that you took time to write down your 30 principles, and the reason why, when we asked you the motivation, was your grandchild. I thought that was so nice. I've not done that. My dad, at 31 years old, took time to write all 5 of his kids a letter, and he died at 64. I found this letter the day before his funeral. It had been sealed for 33 years. I have that letter with me. I didn't bring it on purpose. It just happens to be in this portfolio. When I speak, I bring my dad's letter with me. And it was a special thing when a person, a leader, they take time to do so much for customers and so much for the team. But when you take time and do something for your children and for the next generation, usually it gets enshrined in something special. It's memorable.
Well, my father wrote a letter to me when I was 21 years of age.
Wow.
And it was probably the most important thing that I ever had from my father. And my father never wrote me a letter other than this one, although we had many good in-depth conversations. And when I got that letter and read it, I knew that it was something that I wanted to say for the rest of my life. And the values in there were so important. So I took that letter and I put it somewhere, but I couldn't remember where I put it. And 25 years later, I found it. And after I found it, I had it emblazed in bronze, and I gave my kids each a copy of it. And I've got a copy of it on my desk. And it helped me make lifelong decisions. And one of the most important decisions was when my father died, I gave my entire inheritance to a foundation and kept no financial rewards from that.
Boy, you don't see that every day.
But anyway, every day I'd look at that letter and make decisions based on what he said.
Well, you think, Mr. Bill, you just tied together life, leadership, and legacy. You know, at Legendary, we say it like this: it's where content, coaching, and community come together to maximize your life, leadership, and legacy. And the way that Mr. Bill just shared that one leadership move that his dad made impacted his life and left a legacy. And so it kind of tied it all together. Something powerful about when a father or even a mother sits down and writes down. They take something that's in their invisible parts of their mind and heart and they put it in the visible. It's like everlasting. You can always look back on it. It's why people write books, but a letter is something very special and touching. So thank you.
It brings up the thought of my dad wrote in his journal, Bill. I don't know if you knew this, but you gave me my dad's Jefferson Parish badge.
Right.
And that was just such a treasure to me, having never...
I'm sorry I gave him.
Well, it was a treasure. He had a 99% conviction rate. And he was a very much you could describe my dad more than...
Well, it's just hard to imagine that anybody working for the DA, out of 100 cases, he won 99 out of them. And his father could read a 400-page book in 10 minutes. And that's no lying. I mean, and he remember everything that was in that book. You know, he was a special guy.
You once quizzed me on if I had that same intellect, and you asked me, "Are you as smart as your dad?" And I said, "I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I ask great questions. I read, I speed read, I love to read, and I read too much." And what I found, you showed some personality tests of people when you were hiring them.
Right.
And this was old school, and I love old school meets new school. I'm kind of an old school person. I carry around that briefcase everywhere I go. I love cigars. Good old fashioned conversation is men need to be men again. and so I enjoy being around people like you. But what I found when things, right, and just observing his journal, he writes in there that real life can only be lived with purpose from God and really meaning and enjoyment. Life's too hard to not have that in your life. And it was from that journal, gentlemen, that inspired me to write my book, Real Life Leadership. How to maximize your influence, inspiration, and really in life, not just your business. And so, you had a thought. I didn't want to. Okay.
One of the others is just, I know that for you to be successful in this business, and I didn't know that you gave the inheritance that your father left. Well, I tell you, that's a big deal for Gen 2 leaders. Mr. David Green, one of the things he says is that the Bible says if you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't eat. So who am I to argue with that? So if you're a green family member, you don't get a piece of Hobby Lobby. You have an opportunity to work for there, and that's how you get a paycheck. And so it's interesting, his philosophy, but he's a Gen 1 leader. And Mr. Bill, what he's saying is, as a Gen 2 leader, he forewent the inheritance and forced himself into a situation where he had to kind of earn it on his own. You don't really see that often. That's a groundbreaking move. It's a power move. And I think it was steeped in honor for your father and something that he was passionate about. And, you know, it's one thing for us as a Gen 1 leader, a founder, to come in and say, I don't want to hurt my children and give them too much. It's another one that when the Gen 2 says, I'm going to honor my father, and I'm not going to take that. I'm going to put myself into a situation where I have to earn it. That's a powerful move. What was the motivation? I'm assuming honor, but what? There's more to it than that. What was the motivation?
My father one day put a salt shaker on the table, and he said, "How much salt do you use?" He said, "There's enough salt in there for the whole world." He said, "Take out what you need and take care of other people."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a principle right there. Just write your notes and prepare your talk for your kids. With that in mind, I know that you've been successful in business. You've had to create a vision. You've had to build a team, and you've had to build scalable systems to develop ideas. But if you take a look at your 30 principles, I keep seeing community in there a lot. And is that a philosophy that your dad had, that you learned? Is it something that you adopted? And then how were you able to scale ideas in the community like you've done it in business and with your family? So first is, where did you get that idea from, this big community investment idea?
Well, I think it all came back from that letter, that it really had a lot to do with just giving back. But how do you feel that people who can't give away money and don't have it in here, and you go to somebody and ask them for money, if they don't have it in here, it doesn't feel good. But if it feels good, then you're doing the right thing.
So in the letter, your father communicated about not just the salt shaker, he communicated a principle of, invest in the community. Here, give back. Right. That's so powerful. I'll tell you, if you could theme out and just title this entire interview, it's going to be The Power of the Letter. And it shaped my life. I've read this to tens of thousands of people on 4 different continents right before I read them through the creation of their eulogy. Mm-hmm. They create their own eulogy. We force them to do it because that flushes up in their mind what matters most, right? So there's a famous psalm, I'll tell you this. Proverb, and it's Psalm 90, it's Psalm 90:12. It's a psalm. It's a psalm. It's written by Moses. Right. And it says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And the way that my little Cajun Italian mind, perceives that is, when we realize how short life is, we wisen up. And we realize how short life is, we wisen up. And the things that matter most in this life, they flush up in our mind. We're able to see it and do something about it. And your dad had a moment when he wrote that letter, and my dad too. In fact, when he timestamped this, it was July 29th, 1981 at 1 a.m. Right. And that was at the top of it. That's how we knew it was sealed for 33 years. So it's interesting. A small moment in time where you have clarity on what's most important and you take a minute to do something about it that really has defined your life. And you've carried that heritage on. And so I appreciate you having us here. Anything in the community, how are you able to cast vision, build teams, scale ideas in the community?
Oh, you just have to know people and meet a lot of people. And when you kiss the right frog, you know it. I just left a meeting or a luncheon with 1,200 people. And I would venture to say I probably knew half of them, and 75% of them knew me. And when you meet and know all these people, cover the whole spectrum of our population, you just feel good about it.
That's so good.
I wanted to bring up something on that one. So Dr. Ken Blanchard, I work for the 1 Minute Manager, and he talks about the 5 points of power. He talks about relationship power, task power, knowledge, position, and people power. And I never realized that I had a gift with people,
but I never really leveraged relationship power, like kissing that frog. Well, you grow business. And so for the CEOs out there who are in the room, it sounds like you know how to leverage both people skills, but you're also very profitable in your business. You run good business. You have organizational vitality. You've attracted great quality people. I love how you recruited Paul Flying from Tulane. That's a great story. But how do you know when you're around trust people? How do you attract top talent in a way that represents you in the best way?
It's just a feel of meeting people and knowing what's inside of them, and you can usually tell in the first 3 minutes. And we always gave measurement center tests, and before there were computers that measured people's personality, we had a company out of Lawrencemont, New York, and a little old lady that ran it gave me an 18-page summary of each person's personality. It was probably a 45-minute test. And I came to rely on that test, and I would give her credit for all the people that I hired, good quality people. You know, when she would assign risk, fair risk, poor risk, excellent risk. And when that came in, I was able to determine it before, but it validated everything there. And I wouldn't give anybody the test unless I had somewhat of a positive feeling about them. They were a big factor in everything that I did.
That's amazing.
I'm going to pass the ball to you. Elias.
I know that, you know, in New Orleans, we're known really more for like kissing the ring. And when I heard Mr. Bill say, no, to really scale ideas in the community, you got to kiss a lot of frogs. That made me laugh. But I think what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is that it's unlikely people, but you got to be open to really connecting with them and getting to know them. And in the first 3 minutes, you can catch that gut check. But then from there, they could be a person that could take the idea and run with it. And I love in one of your principles, you talk about essentially delegating and giving it away, giving the power away to let somebody else take the leadership position.
Right.
And so maybe you could speak more to that. I mean, have there been times where you had an idea for the community that, you know, and I think that when you run at the level that you run, you see further, farther, and faster than a lot of other people. And so you have these ideas, but you don't really have the bandwidth to go implement all these ideas. Have you had an idea for the community and you said, you know what, we make a couple of phone calls, put some people together, and then communicated it, and it's really taken off, and it's something that we enjoy today. Maybe you did it 20, 30 years ago, you know.
So the answer to that is one of the things that was really important to me was obesity. Mm-hmm. And I always couldn't understand why New Orleans was not just the most overweight city in America, but the most obese city in America. And I would go to politicians and say, we really need to do something about this. And all the politicians says, you know, that's not a political idea and it's not going to help me. So there was a dean of the medical school at Tulane University who I befriended, and he came from Mass General in Boston. And I said, what can we do about it? And we came up with an idea that we were going to develop something within Tulane University, and we were going to teach doctors about nutrition. And that program became so successful that it was franchised out to 63 medical schools around the world. And it really, really took hold. And I'm still involved in that in some way. But it was great. So have we solved obesity in New Orleans? No, we haven't, because we've got a Popeyes on every corner, and kids are still drinking the 64-ounce soft drinks.
And there's no diet gumbo.
Yeah, and you know, the stuff that's just not good for you. And Mayor Bloomberg in New York took some of those things off the table in New York and taxed them. And until we change obesity in this country, healthcare is not going to change.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, thank you for making that effort all those years ago. I do believe that downstream, nothing that we do won't have no result. It's gonna have a result. You've certainly raised some awareness. What I've noticed when it comes to legacy is that the idea guy is not always the person that gets things done. The tech guy is not always the person that gets things done. But when the philanthropist shows up at the table, people that don't work together start to work together. And this is coming from Mart Green. Mart is Mr. David's other son, and Mart's about 64 years old. He's really the father of this concept called collective impact. Stanford made it famous, and collective impact, he's done this to really help change whole communities. And what he saw, Mr. Bill, was so many people doing the same thing and overlap, and they were coming to their family for resources and philanthropy dollars, but they were doing the same thing. And if he could just get them in the room and they could cooperate, he would give the same amount of money, but it would have a multiplied impact. Have you noticed that as you've gone through, this time in your life where you've given back into the community, where you've had to really use your position as a philanthropist to make people work together for a common goal?
I've tried it in numerous instances, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But, it's like in politics, 50% of the people are to the left and 50% to the right. And you can try to bring them together, but sometimes it just doesn't work.
Those waffles get in the way.
Yeah, but if you keep trying, bringing people together.
It's great.
I think pivoting now, just as we're landing the plane, this is Rich. I wanted to ask you your 11th principle, your leadership quality that will guarantee success is power is something that comes with the territory and does not have to be shown as others recognize it, but never abuse it. So will you speak to that as it pertains to business or life or philanthropy or sales? Because people are wanting power, and that is a genuine need to have success in business or success in sales, and you have to be influential. You can't hide. You have to brand yourself, if you will. Would you just like to speak any thoughts as it pertains to that quality that can help us?
I think you're right. Power comes with the territory, and you don't flaunt it ever. But people that know you accept what you're saying, and that is something that people see more of you than you see of yourself. I don't know how else to.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat that. People see more of you than you see of yourself. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of looking in the mirror and forgetting what you look like by not having your actions follow through your character or your principles. And wow, that's powerful. Wanted to pivot. You got something, Bill?
Yeah, I was about to say, probably the most important part of power in my life is when I call up or talk to someone in a restaurant, I can get a reservation.
That's good. I love that. Yeah. I have a question for you. I know that we're running out of time, and I just want to make sure that whoever watches this, they hear this. There's going to be some of the next generation of leaders that are rising up, and I know that you couldn't be more proud of people that are stepping into leadership positions, and they're going to have a couple of roads that they can go down. They can go down the old school, a corrupt road, a good road, and I just want to give you a spot to communicate to the next generation leader, not just in New Orleans, but in every community in America, as these leaders are rising and they're coming into positions of leadership and power and authority. What is your encouragement to them? And how can they be? You've been a father to this city. And so those people from this next generation need to rise up and begin to watch over their communities and the well-being of their communities, not just run good businesses and raise great families.
Thanks for checking out our conversation with Bill Goldring. It's our goal to inspire you in real life to become a leader people love to follow. What topics do we need to be agile about right now? What conversations should we have next? Drop a comment or direct message to Joey. We're listening and we're learning. Because leadership isn't about being perfect, it's about being present.